Welcome, everyone. We're just going to give everybody a minute or two to file in. This is an hour webinar, so we want to honor everyone's time. Time integrity is really important to us. We also know a lot of you are going to be watching the recording back. So we'll give everybody about, a couple more seconds to as we file in, and then we'll get started. For those of you that are joining us today live, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to allow us to add value to your worlds and to your business. You may kind of be asking yourself, well, those two ladies don't look like Kayla. And we'll go ahead and let everybody know. Unfortunately, Kayla has fallen ill. And so we are going to be delivering her content on her behalf today. Please, 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 if you pray, meditate, send good vibes, send love. Kayla's a new mom. So you can imagine how being sick yourself and then having a newborn to take care of can add some added stress. So just make sure you send her some love, and she will be back with us in the future to do future webinars. So with that said, we needed to find a fill-in, and Kayla actually hand selected this wonderful woman to deliver her content today. And I believe it's because first, she's an amazing human. So if you don't follow Elena Bedeau, please start following her, because she is in our world and it's just amazing. But Kayla actually chose Elena because of her track record. For those of you that have not had the opportunity to meet Elena Bedeau or know who she was, there is a team out of Houston, Texas called the Loken Group, and Elena was their 10th hire. I think it was 9 years ago, Elena, is that right?
Almost 10, yeah.
Almost 10 years ago. And at their peak size, they were 84 team members. Is that correct, Elena? Yep. And so if anyone knows anything about team building and Team 101 and has been on the front lines, it is Elena. So I'm going to allow her to take it over, and I'll be here to add some comments along the way and be her Vanna to her Pat Sajak. So Elena, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you. And if you will just keep an eye on the participants in the chat, we've still got a few people popping in.
Sure will.
That would be super helpful because I got my notes up in front of me. So one of the things that I am especially passionate about is leverage, which is why I work for this amazing company, Your Realty Leverage. And we know that we love this quote: the hours that ordinary people waste, extraordinary people leverage, right? And what you're finding if you're on this webinar is that you are probably running short on time. We talk to a lot of agents who are like, my kids don't recognize me anymore, and I haven't had a date night with my spouse in 5 years. I haven't been on vacation. And so that's when we know that people need leverage. And a lot of times that looks like growing a team and being really intentional about that. And we talk a lot in our team and with our coaching clients about this concept of why, what, how, right? And that's kind of why we chose this topic, because a lot of times as business owners and operators, we go straight to the what, right? We go straight into, what do I need to start a team? What do I need to run a team? How do I do it, right? We don't really think about why we want to do that, and then what is actually required to do that at a really high level. We go straight to that how. And so our goal today is to really lay out the framework for how you can successfully build and scale a real estate team. Now, this topic is a really big topic. We could talk about this for 12 hours straight and still not cover everything. So I just want to sort of preface this with, we're going to talk really high level on some really key points, and we are going to be talking about some other resources that you can leverage in order to dive deeper into some of those concepts. So, and of course, please leverage the chat if you have specific questions, or if there is you have any comments, we want to hear from you. Please give us feedback in the chat and ask questions, and I'll try to leave time at the end to answer any questions live also. So there is a book called The 12-Week Year by Brian Moran. Some of you have probably heard of it. It's an incredible book around how to set goals in a way that is motivating and makes it easy to achieve your objectives. And from that book, he talks about the 8 elements of high performance teams. And I want to lay those out for you a little bit today. The first is vision. The vision is the compelling, clear future of, compelling, clear picture of the future. This is where we're going, right? Casting that vision. The second one is planning. An effective plan clarifies and focuses the top priority initiatives and actions needed to achieve that vision. Process control. Everybody loves systems and processes, right? This is a set of tools and events and systems that align our daily activities with the critical actions of our plan. You can see how these are starting to build on one another, right? Next is measurement. We want the lead and the lag indicators that provide us with that comprehensive feedback that's necessary for informed decision-making. These are the measurements that we're going to use to drive our business forward, to just keep moving that needle towards our ultimate goal. How we use our time, right? In a world in which we can do anything, we have to be really intentional with the way that we use our time so that we're not spending so much of our time on those unnecessary activities and we're staying in that top 20% that drive our business forward. Number 6 is accountability. Accountability ultimately is ownership, right? Whether we are the business owner, we are the admin, we're the ISA, we're the TC, whatever the case may be. Accountability is a character trait, right? A life stance that's a willingness to own our actions and results regardless of the circumstances, right? So we don't use excuses. We find a way to move forward regardless of what's happening around us. Commitment, keeping your promises to your team, to each other, to build those strong relationships, and keeping promises to yourself, right? It builds character and success ultimately. And then finally, number 8 is greatness in the moment, right? The results are not the attainment of greatness, but simply the confirmation of it, right? There's a lot of times where I'm sure you guys have been to a gym in January when everybody has set these big goals for the year. They're all going to eat like rabbits. We're all going to be beautiful and skinny by summertime. And then come March or April, right? Things start to thin out a little bit. We lose that motivation. So we really have to tap into that greatness in every moment that we are working towards these team goals. Now, as I'm sure you're looking at this list, you're probably thinking, Elena, those are 8 really big topics, and we have just under an hour left to cover them. So as I mentioned before, we're really going to set the framework for starting to build a team. So we're going to focus on these top 4 categories today. And while they're all really important, I feel that the top 4 are really the foundation, the non-negotiables that should be put in place when you're starting your team in order to set you up for success. Any questions or comments so far?
Great job.
And Brinley, feel free to step in because I know you're passionate.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great.
All right, number 1, vision, right? We want to unite our team for a common purpose, whether it's you and one other person or whether you have 84 people on your team. The vision is so important because talented people want to know where they're headed, right? And surprisingly, the first step for looking outward is looking inward. The very best agents and teams are able to translate to the people, both clients and the people they're hiring and the people they employ, why they should work with them on any specific set of services, right? We call this their mission, vision, values, or their value proposition. You might have even heard of it as a big why.
I recently, Elena, I'll jump in here just for a moment, just to add a leadership perspective. So a couple of things come to mind. If you're sitting in the room and you're even a single agent, maybe you're at this call because you saw Teams 101 and you're like, I want to build a team, but I don't quite have one yet. Or you're a team of 15. Remember, you have a team outside of the people that work on your payroll or that you're contracted with. You have a title company, you have an attorney, you have a mortgage company, you have a brokerage that you're partnered with. Those are all part of your team. So when we talk about vision and purpose, making sure that all the people in your world are focused on your purpose and know your mission and vision. And then number two, I got to spend 2 days actually with some pretty powerful leaders in our organization recently, Gary Keller, Jay Papasan, Jason Abrams. And then I also have spent a lot of time with Tony Robbins, who you all might know. And all of these leaders at a high level say, in order to cast your vision and know your mission, the leader first must know who they are. So you have to know who you are and where you want to go so that you can then translate that into your team members. And remember, it's the leader's job to go to the front, cast the vision, and then go to the back and get to work. But if your people don't know where they're going, if you don't know where you're going, your people won't know where they're going. And then what will happen is you'll be headed towards Jupiter, they'll be headed towards Mars, and you're both supposed to be on the moon. So I just want to kind of preface that start thinking about this, that even if you're in business for just yourself right now, it starts with who you are and who you want to be and what your mission and vision is.
Right. And just to add on to that, I think so many times as business owners, we get 2 or 3 years into our business and we start to chase that shiny object, right? We go to a conference or we talk to, someone else in the industry that we respect, and we think, oh, I should go drop $10,000 on this new shiny toy, or I should invest in this this lead generation tool, or you guys know what I'm talking about. And yet when we're really clear on our mission, vision, and values, they function as an incredible filter for making those big business decisions. And so just as a super high level, what is the mission statement? This is why we do what we do, right? This is why we get out of bed every day. This is the ultimate impact that we want to have on the world. And there's no why quite like serving others. As humans, we're hardwired to serve others. So, believing that we have something of value to give back really drives us forward. It helps us feel like we belong. And the mission statement is what's going to attract like-minded, talented people to join your team and serve at a really high level. Your vision statement is, what are the long-term goals that we're looking to achieve? This isn't just what we want to achieve in the next 12 months or the next quarter. This is, what does it look like when we're done, when we've achieved our mission? This is sometimes a little bit harder to articulate. So make sure you spend some time here and really thinking aspirationally about what you want to accomplish as a business and a business owner. And then finally, our values, sometimes referred to as our core values, right? This is going to be those filters through which we make every decision and the filters through which we expect ourselves and our team members to behave. For a lot of teams, that's integrity, leadership, right? It could be trust or knowledge. We have a really great values elicitation exercise. If you're interested in doing that on a one-on-one basis, please reach out to us, because it's an incredibly powerful exercise that can help you get clarity on your values. The next piece of this is, where are you going, right? You've gotten clarity on your mission, vision, and values. You know what it is that you're looking to achieve. What does that look like practically? Do you have an idea of what your organization chart looks like for the next 5 years in order to accomplish that mission and vision? This is almost as important as having a P&L for your business, right? Because when you bring on members of your team, they're going to want to know, what is my trajectory? Where are we going, right? You're also going to need to know, how am I leveraging the tasks in my business, and to whom will those eventually fall, right? So when you look at something like this might be a little bit overwhelming or scary if you're a team of one right now, but maybe you're, like Brinley was saying, maybe your vendors, your title partners, your attorney partners are currently on your org chart. What do you want that to look like in the future?
I will also jump in, Elena, I'll jump in here too. Guys, sometimes 5 years can be a little daunting for people. So if 5 years is a little too far out, just start with 3. 36 months, right? And change the frame from 3 years to 36 months. 36 months is a little bit more achievable. So then if you just say, okay, this is where I want to be in 36 months, then we just back it up. Okay, if I need to be there in 36 months, here's where I need to be in 12. If you start to feel overwhelmed and anxiety around going too far out in the future, or sometimes you just can't wrap your head around it, it's okay to pull it back a little bit. You're not failing if you don't have the 5-year vision.
And yes, of course. And I will say this will help give you clarity on who do we need to hire in the future? What training are they going to need in order to perform at a really high level? What leadership are they going to need, right? We speak to so many business owners who make their first or second hire and they feel like they're failing because they're an excellent agent, but they're not a great leader yet. So planning your org chart like this will even help you get clarity on what training you might need to lead really high level talent as your business grows. And then of course, you're creating opportunity for team members who join you in your mission and vision by showing them, hey, if you're a buyer's agent now, or you're an ISA now, eventually I see you as the director of lead generation, or eventually I see you as our director of operations. So that can help you not only cast the vision for them, but help design their training and the systems and processes that are needed to set them up for success. Any questions or ahas on the vision piece of the business and why this is so important? You can raise your hand or drop them in the chat. All right, quiet group. So the second level of this, or the second item that I want to cover today, is planning. You guys hear goal setting and retreats, and there's 1,000 different tools out there for setting meaningful goals and planning for those within your business. I want to show you a little bit of a different tool today, and we will share this tool with you as after the class as part of the resources with the recording that goes out. But we call this the RPM, or a strategic planning tool. And what this does is, you'll probably recognize some of the elements on here. We're going to go through each one by one. But what's really interesting about this, and if you've ever spent a couple of days or a couple of hours working on a really beautiful business plan, and you're so proud of it, and then you put it in your desk drawer, and then you never look at it again, right? Or you get 6 months into the year and you're far off your goal, and you're like, why am I even doing this, right? What I love about this tool is it starts with the purpose. Why are we doing this? What's important about this goal or this set of goals? And this is going to be so helpful for you as you start to feel that motivation wane, as you start to feel that overwhelm, as we all inevitably do. As you get 6 months into your year, you can draw back on this really powerful motivation of why we're doing this. So in this tool, we've outlined a couple of questions you might ask yourself, right? Which is putting yourself in the position of having already achieved this amazing goal. Now that I've achieved this, how do I feel, right? Some of these might tie back to your mission, vision, and values. I feel accomplished. I have achieved X. I have become a business owner, a team leader, a rainmaker, right? Some of those really aspirational visions that we have for themselves. Then we're going to move to the results part of our RPM. These are the SMART, measurable results that we look to achieve within our goals. And you guys have all heard of SMART goals before. Specific, meaning there is no gray area. Either you achieved it or you didn't, right? If your goal was to close 10 properties and you closed 9, we didn't achieve the goal, right? But if you say, I'm going to close more properties this year than I did last year, it's not quite specific enough, right? Because it could be 1, it could be 40. So we want to be as specific as possible. We want to make sure that it's measurable, meaning a percentage, a unit, a dollar amount. On the occasion, there is a yes or no, create and implement a system, something along those lines. You might include something like that there. But in general, we want to make sure that these are very clearly measurable items.
Can I jump in here, Elena?
Yes,
Can I jump
please.
in here just for a second?
Mhm.
So this is me being vulnerable from a leadership perspective. When we don't have SMART goals, we have ambiguity. And when we have ambiguity, things become personal. So when someone doesn't have a clear defined metric or quantity or measurable goal, then there's ambiguity in what it can mean. So what do I mean by that? If I say go create a 36 touch, and I go and Chris tells me to go create the 36 touch, and I go create it and I bring it back to Chris as my leader, and Chris goes, well, that's not what I wanted. And the individual says, well, but you said build a 36 touch, that's what I did. But that's not the 36 touch I wanted. Yet if Chris says, go build a 36 touch to add 50 METs to the database this month, then now we know if you hit 50, you hit the goal. If you hit 49, you didn't hit the goal. There's no room for ambiguity. We don't pay people to create, design, implement. We pay people to achieve a result. So what happens a lot of times as leaders is that we have ambiguity and then it becomes personal. And because you didn't design it the way that I would want it designed, or you didn't create it the way that I would want it created, we're on two different pages and now we both feel like we failed. And now it becomes personal when we let someone go. It becomes unbiasedness that we let someone go, not based on results. So this is why if you've ever coached with me or one of our coaches, when we're working on GPSs, my number one question, is it smart enough? Is it smart enough? Is it smart enough? Is it smart enough? Is it so smart that we both know without a shadow of a doubt what it takes to hit the goal and what success looks like, so that it never becomes personal?
I love that. Ben Kinney says, or is it Seth, not Ben, Seth says, 10 is 10, 9 is not 10, right? It should be that clear that a 5-year-old can understand it, right? If they're looking at your goals. The next item here is action driven, right? It has to be something we can actually take action on, right? Something that, if you're helping a team member build out their SMART goals or things that they're responsible for, it needs to be something that they can actually own, right? If it's dependent on another person or a system or, something else to happen first, we need to take that into consideration and we need to build that into our SMART goals. Realistic. We get a lot of questions on what does it mean realistic? How do we know if it's realistic? In our organization, we define realistic as you have a 50% chance to hit the goal and a 50% chance to fail, right? It's scary enough, big enough that it pushes us outside of our comfort zone. It makes us work a little bit harder than we did before. And a 50% chance that we're gonna nail it, right? So keep that in mind as you're determining the realistic element here. And then time bound. We need a deadline. Time is a measurement of velocity, right? If one of my clients says, I want to close 50 deals, great. Is that over the next 6 months or is that over the next 5 years, right? Those two things look very different. So we want to make sure that there's a time element associated with every single one of these goals. And if you're having trouble determining, is this the right result? Is this the right measurable? Is this, ask yourself, how does this goal move the needle forward? How does this result move the needle forward towards your ultimate mission, vision, and values, right? We go right back to that filter through which we measure everything. The next column on our little RPM here is a little bit scary. It's multiply by 3. And a lot of people say, like, what does that even mean? We want to make sure that we're not just designing our goals and our systems for where we are in business today. We want to make sure that we are designing our systems and processes and goals based on where we want our business to be. So a really good rule of thumb is to take those results and multiply them by 3 So let's say our desired result for this year is to close 20 transactions. Let's multiply that out by 3 and say 60 transactions before we go get into our action plan, because so much of what we end up doing is we jump right into the action, we jump right into the how, and we design things for where our business is today. And then we just have to repeat this process all over again as our business grows and scales. So if we're thinking in terms of scalability, we're already one step ahead, right? We don't have to do that process as often because our systems are growing with us and not against us.
And I'll jump in here. This is where, my organization, our organization, they hear me talk a lot about the why, the what, the how. And a lot of us, especially as business owners, we either live in a very high sense of urgency as entrepreneurs, or we're operators who live in a very logical, methodical, slow type environment. And what we typically both do is we go straight to the how first. And I'll keep along with the theme with a 36 touch. We need a 36 touch. So we go straight to how we're going to create it. We go straight to command. We start setting up the biweekly emails. We plan our 2 events and we figure out how to tag our database to make the quarterly calls. And then we wake up in 3 months and we go, I've gotten no results from my 33 touch. And the reason is because we went straight to the how. We didn't back up and say, okay, why are we doing a 33 touch? Well, we're doing it because we want to create a certain number of METs for the database, because we know that there's a 12-to-2 ratio on METs for closed transactions. And then once we know the why, then we go to the what. Okay, in order to accomplish the why, what do we need? So if that's the purpose, is the why, right? Then we go to the what. What do we need in order to accomplish that? Well, we need email drip campaigns to go out quarterly. Well, what do we want our results to be from that? Well, we need quarterly touch plan. Okay, great. What do we want those results to be? Then we go to the how, which is the action plan. Because now we have purpose and we know exactly what we need in order to create the right how. So if you're in something right now and you're not getting the results you want, ask yourself, did we go straight to the how? And do we need to back up and get back into the why and what?
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the how, right? The action plan. The action plan is the actual activity that we're going to do, that we're going to plug into our time blocks, that we're going to put on our 411s in order to achieve the result that we're looking for. One of the most important thing to include here, and we should actually add, Brinley, another column, is for every action item, there should be a who, by who's responsible for this, because if everyone's responsible for it, no one's responsible for it, and by when. Right? By when can we expect this action item to be completed? And a great litmus test here for these action items is, how does this activity help us achieve the result, right? Because remember, we can do anything, but it doesn't mean we should do everything, right? So we want to make sure whatever action we put in this final column, it does actually help us achieve that result. And we should be able to articulate why we believe that to be the case, right? So we want to think in terms of X to Y by Z, right? Activity to result by what time frame? For agents, you may be looking at your action plan. You may be looking at booking a certain number of appointments per week. Lead generation, how many voice-to-voice calls are you getting on a weekly basis, right? How often are you role playing? If we're talking about in terms of your admin, if you're an admin on the call, or if you have an admin on your team, we want to think in terms of how many reviews and referrals are they acquiring through their daily activities? How accuracy or efficient are they in achieving the results of their role? How many of your files are closing on time versus delayed, right? What is the customer experience like? Are we surveying them on a scale of 1 to 5? And are we achieving this customer experience result that we're looking to achieve? And then finally, once we have that action plan in place, what do we do with it, right? How do we ensure that those items are actually being accomplished on a weekly basis? and we're holding ourselves and our team members accountable to achieving those results that we set out to achieve. So we have on
Okay,
here,
you know, I have a lot of thoughts on this, Elena. I gotta jump
you know
in.
what? I'm just
She
going to
loves when
let
I
you jump in
interrupt
on the
her.
floor. Do it. Take the
She
411 girl, because I know
She
you love
knows.
this.
So here's my full transparency, vulnerability, leadership moment. And I know I'm not talking about anyone on this call, okay? So here's what happens. We schedule one-on-ones with our team members, and those one-on-ones get moved. And they typically get moved because something more important that we perceive as to be more important, which is usually money driven, right? A lead calls, I can only meet at this time. It's during a team member's one-on-one, and then we don't reschedule it, or we do reschedule it. And the later it gets in the week, the harder it gets to. Or better yet, we're not achieving our goals as leaders. And then we find it really hard to hold our people accountable. So we get relaxed on the one-on-one. Because a lot of us want to be integritous leaders. So if we're not hitting our goals, if we're not doing the things that we're supposed to, it becomes difficult to then turn around and hold others accountable. And I've been through this in a big way in the last year. And so now I share my 411 with our entire organization. I'm accountable to everyone in my organization to my 411. And I'm treated the same way they are, in the sense that if I'm not going to hit my goal, I have to let them know why I'm not going to hit the goal and what my plan is going to be to hit the goal. And this is what Gary says about 411s and about one-on-one accountability, is that whole call is only about what was the goal, what was the reality, why didn't you hit it, and how can I support you, and what do I need to give you to be able to hit it. If you hit the goal, you get to come to that call and we will talk about whatever you want to talk about. We can talk about the weather, we can talk about shopping, we can talk about Gucci, we can talk about fishing, whatever you want to talk about. Yet if you didn't hit the goal, that whole appointment is going to be about how to get you back on track to hit the goal. So these have to become non-negotiables on our calendars as leaders. There are 3 fiduciaries that we have as leaders. 3. 1, set the standard and communicate it often. Set the standard and communicate it often. 2, inspect what you expect, have a cadence of accountability. Inspect what you expect, have a cadence of accountability. And number 3, give them the systems, models, tools they need to hit the standard and achieve the goal. Which means that we become teachers. That's all we are as leaders. We are teachers, and we have to constantly be learning in order to pour in and educate and give them the support that they need to hit their goals. But what happens is we take responsibility for their goals. When they don't get there fast enough, we jump in and we take the job back. When what we really have to do is we have to slow down and educate and teach. Okay, I'm done. Go ahead, Amelia.
You're getting a request. You're getting a request to repeat the inspect part again.
I'm what? I'm getting a request. So number 1 is set the standard, communicate it often. Number 2, inspect what you expect, have a cadence of accountability. A cadence of accountability. And then number 3, give them the systems, models, tools, education they need to hit the goal. So now what happens is now you have true autonomy. They know what their goals are. And I'm here to support you. And what the ultimate goal for you as a leader is that you want to become the type of leader like Elena is with me. She knows what her goals are, but now she comes to me and says, hey, I have this idea and I want to run it by you because you have a lot of expertise and you have a lot of knowledge. So I just want to run it by you before I execute it to see what your thoughts are. It's no longer a micromanaging, you have to do this relationship. It's a collaboration. She already knows her goal and she's responsible for getting there. And now I'm a resource. And that's the pinnacle. That's where we want to get to as leaders.
And we will share this 411 worksheet along with the recording as well. So don't worry, you'll get that resource. I don't want to go too much farther into it because we have a lot of ground to cover. And yet I think Brinley pretty clearly identified how you can run one of these or run these 411 meetings on a weekly basis for success. So item number 3 in our list of Teams 101 is process control in designing and documenting the process, right? What is the standard process by which things happen on your team or in your business. A lot of the agents we talk to are not process people. They run in the opposite direction, which is why you come find people like myself and like Brinley who can help you design that, right? So I want to kind of talk about what is systems-based thinking. Systems-based thinking is understanding holistically how all of the processes in your business function and influence one another, right? Our goal here is to minimize and eliminate duplication and increase efficiency, right? You're hearing probably right now in this market, you got to do double the activity, right? And you're thinking, well, you didn't double my time. How am I going to make that work, right? So your head should be going to what systems and processes am I missing in my business that will allow me to do double the activity in this same amount of time, right? We want to make sure that we are focusing on scalability, right? And the way in which all of these systems work together. Now, I know you're probably thinking, oh, well, we have Boomtown, we have Command, we have the Compass platform. Those are platforms. Those aren't systems. Sometimes those words get intertwined. And I just want to be really clear, for the purposes of systems-based thinking, the platform is part of your system, but the system itself is for a lead generation system is from the very first time we snag that lead to how we progress them all the way through to a closing, right? What is your lead generation system? What happens to that lead once it comes in? Where in what platform do we put it so that they're automatically dripped to that 36 touch that she was talking about a little while ago? Once they respond to the 36 touch, then what happens, right? How do we get them into an appointment? So think of it in terms of the entire system from start to finish and not just the platforms that you're using to accomplish those objectives. When we don't think in terms of systems holistically like this, what ends up happening is we accumulate a ton of technical debt. And I don't know if you have found yourself in this situation where you're sort of duct taping and screwdrivering, is that a word? Screwdrivering systems together, right? Where you've chased the shiny object, or you're finding yourself doing lots of duplication. I have 15 Excel spreadsheets. That's technical debt, right? That's when we're thinking of things in terms of individual activities and not as a whole system. We tend to chase trends or shiny objects, and everybody feels super rushed and overwhelmed and underserved, right? We stay in that reactive versus responsive mode. And we tend to find ourselves more in emotion than logic when we're functioning in this stuff type of world. On the flip side of that, when we focus on systems, we are able to measure, just like what we've been talking about with our results and SMART goals. We're able to actually measure our effectiveness when we have great systems. We have solution-based thinking that's scalable and has longevity. Everything sort of remains in sync as our clients are progressing through a transaction with us. We can project and adjust our budget, right? We're no longer at the mercy of throwing money at things because we have an immediate problem and we're reactive. And then we sort of get in this sensation of things are just working, right? Things are just going really smoothly. That's how we figure out how to do double the activity in the same amount of time. So how do you know? How do you know if your systems are a mess, right? You might have no systems, and that's okay. If you're just starting out and you're just looking to build a team, you might be starting from ground zero, and that's totally fine. If you've been running a team for a while and things just aren't going the way you want them to, that's okay too. We have a really great tool that you can use to evaluate your current systems. And the first step is going to be use that systems of evaluation. I'm going to give you the link here in just a second. You want to enlist the help of all of the users of that system. Just like what we said earlier, that could be your vendors. It could be your EA. It could be your TC, whether they're an independent TC or a in-house TC, right? Connect with these people, mastermind solutions. There are about 36 like-minded people on a call right now who could be really great resource for you for masterminding solutions because you all have similar challenges, right? You might leverage a coach, right? We do coaching in our team that can, we've been there, we've seen it, we've seen what doesn't work. So learn from others' mistakes. Enlist an accountability partner who can help you make decisions that will help you move your business forward. So in looking at this systems evaluation, you'll see the link down there at the bottom, yrlsystemsaudit.com. It's going to walk you through the primary, I think there's about 10 primary systems that are included in this evaluation. And it's going to ask you a couple of questions. What system is your team currently using? Remember, think outside of just the platform. Think of it in terms of the whole system. Is the system scalable? If we triple our business, does the system break or does it continue to chug along as it should? Who's actually responsible for maintaining and creating and updating this system on a regular basis? And what is your team's ability on a scale of 1 to 5 to perform within this system? And you'll see you'll see our scale here where 1 is, man, I don't have this at all. I'm starting from ground zero. That's okay. And then 5 is the system is productive, it's highly effective, it's scalable, and we are regularly reviewing it for how we can do things differently or better. So once you complete this audit, you'll have a really good idea of where you might spend some of your time and energy and possibly dollars for having the greatest impact on your business. I got to throw credit to Brinley here because she created this systems evaluation. So is there anything else that I left out that you want to add before I move on to the next section?
Here's the biggest challenge I find that people have with systems is we try to do all the things instead of just focusing on one thing. And focus actually stands for follow one course until successful. Follow one course till successful. What happens is that we start a system over here, and then when it doesn't move as fast as we want, then we move over here to another system, and we don't finish the first system before we go to the next system. And that's how we start to create technical debt. So anytime you do any type of systems evaluation, what I recommend is doing the evaluation and then prioritizing what the most important system to work on first is. And the litmus test for that is what is going to make you the most money the fastest or save you the most time the fastest. Because if we get time back, we can use that time to make more money and drive more income. And then follow one course until successful. Fix that system to completion before you move to the next. And if you do that, then you will actually complete more long-term instead of waking up at the end of the year and you have 13 open systems and you feel like you failed because you didn't complete any of them. And also my last tip here is that if you're working on a system, block time first thing in the morning before you start your day, whether it's 30 minutes, an hour, to work on that system before your day takes you away. Because the longer you prioritize that into the day, the less likely you are to do it. Other things will become more important and your day will take you away. So imagine if you just committed to 30 minutes every morning to work on that new system. By the end of the week, you would have 2.5 hours in, which is a lot easier than finding a 2.5 hour block. That's it.
Oh, awesome. Great. You were on a roll. I didn't want to interrupt. So I know there's some do's and don'ts of a system here. I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's pretty self-explanatory and we've talked a lot on some of these topics already. The one thing I want to highlight is do not throw money or go hire a bunch of people before you have evaluated your system. Remember, hiring someone is the easy button. Sometimes we have to press that, right? When our business gets to that point. But what we're seeing is a lot of people have unintentionally bloated in their business from a salary expense perspective because they hired someone to do the job that when in reality, they were just missing a system, right? So think about that first Now, we can help you hire the perfect person. We can help you hire that unicorn for your business. But I want you to think in terms of systems before you run straight to that hire, because a lot of times there's a really great solution in there. And then finally, your operations manual. We have a whole class on this coming up. This is a 2-hour class, and I have about a minute and a half to hit it at a high level. So at the end of the class, you'll see how you can sign up for the actual operations manual course. But once you've done all of this work on designing and implementing your systems, document, 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 document. Because as you're growing your team, it's imperative that when new people join, they have a resource that they can go and immediately and very clearly see how things operate on your team. Ultimately, what happens if you don't do this is they'll come in and start kind of doing things on their own way, right? We'll start to see little pieces start to go by the wayside. And then just like we accumulate credit card debt, right? It's gradually, then suddenly you'll find yourself with, you know, this beautiful business that you've built and nothing's going quite like you wanted it to, right? So make sure everything is documented as you're building these out. This could look like videos, right? Jump on a Zoom with yourself and do a screen share and save that video. There's some great systems out there, or great Chrome extensions out there that will help document step-by-step procedures. And it doesn't have to take any extra time because you're just going about your day. You just turn on the Zoom recording, or you start a Tango and just do your work, and the platform does it for you, right? The technology does it for you. You might include checklists here. You might include flow charts, right? The one that's included here is a swim lane for flow chart that shows which team member is responsible for each activity in this particular process. You might include your org model, right? That projected org chart over the next 1, 3, 5 years, your budget, your economic model, your goals, right? Anything that pertains to your team should go in this operations manual. So if that's something that you feel like you need, make sure you join us on that class. And then finally, we're going to measure our results, right? We're going to track and measure those results that we set out in the beginning of our goal setting today. And you probably hear this term thrown around a lot, KPI. What is a KPI? KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator. And in layman's terms, it's just a measurement of the most important activities and results in your business. A lot of times that's tied to revenue. And Brinley, I see your hand up because you're very
I have thoughts on this. So let's do a quick lesson in KPIs versus business metrics. So they're two different things. KPIs are key performance indicators that are directly tied to revenue. And in our businesses, revenue is GCI, gross commission income. So this is going to be something: reviews, referrals, closings, actual closings. Those are the KPIs. They're directly tied to revenue, meaning that you can attach a cost amount, an income amount to that metric or to that KPI that's going to generate revenue. Business metrics are the activities that are going to lead you to the KPI. So in our world, business metrics are contacts, appointments, agreements. Those are the activities that you have to hit in order to get to the closing, get to the KPI. So you have to have both, because KPIs are revenue driven, metrics are activity driven, and you've got to know what activities to do every day in order to generate the income. More examples of KPIs. So you're not going to have as many KPIs as you're going to have business metrics. KPIs truly are your revenue generators. What directly generates revenue? Closings generate revenue. A listing does not generate revenue. It doesn't generate revenue until you sell it, right? So it's sold listings, it's contracts closed, it's referrals. Referrals actually generate income, right? Reviews, you can use, that one's a little sticky because you can't really directly tie it to revenue. So that might be more of a metric, but just don't overthink the KPIs, guys, because KPIs, you may only have 2 or 3, right? Metrics are going to be the activities. Those are the things that you're going to want to keep an eye on every day, because we can have all the KPIs set in the world, but if we're not doing the right activities to get us there, we'll never hit the KPI. And what happens is we convolute the two, and then that's when it gets the ambiguity comes into place, and then we wake up and we're cash poor because we haven't generated any income. So it's really important as a leader that everyone in your organization knows what their KPIs are, their key performance indicators that drive direct revenue, which means you have to be having revenue conversations with your team. And then they know what their activities are that they need to do every day in their 20% in order to get to the KPI. And again, like our coaches, this is what we focus on. So if you guys have more questions, you're going to have our information at the end of the call. You can reach out and we can look at your business and look at what some of these KPIs and metrics can be based on where you are.
There's one other element of this. Once you know what they are, would you ever go to a sporting event and watch a sporting event and not have a scoreboard, right? Like, we don't play sports just for funsies for the most part, right? We go to a football game, we go to a baseball game, and we root for a side and we see the scoreboard so that we know how we're performing at any given time throughout that game. Business is no different. There's a book called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. Excellent book. He says there are 3 essential A's of a great KPI. It must be accessible, right? You must be able to see it. Your team member must be able to see it. It must be auditable, meaning you must be able to check those numbers at any given time. If you've got KPIs or you've got your numbers in 15 different spreadsheets and no one really knows where any of them live, it's not really auditable. It's got to be easily accessible and they got to know where to get to it. And then it's got to be actionable. It's got to be something that we can actually take action on, right? Just like what Brinley was just describing, the things that actually drive revenue within our business. So, the most important thing here is that you know your numbers. I can't tell you how many times I've seen Brinley teach, and she says, raise your hand if you know how many listings went on the market in your MLS yesterday. And everybody just kind of goes like, you gotta know your numbers. That includes your market numbers as well as the numbers of your business, right? If you were to get in the cockpit of an airplane and the pilot didn't know what was happening on all the dials in front of him, you'd be pretty concerned. So you wanna make sure that you have some way of tracking and daily viewing your numbers so that if your coach comes to you and says, how many leads did you take last week? How many of those converted to an appointment? How many of those signed an agreement, right? And if you look at your coach and you don't know those numbers, your coach is going to be a good coach, would be pretty frustrated with you, right? Because those are the dials that drive the airplane of your business. So I included a sample sort of scoreboard or number conversion rates and numbers here, just so you could see kind of what that looks like. But it is so important.
So important. What you measure improves. What you measure improves. And most of our stress around money is lack of clarity around our numbers. And the minute that we go get the clarity around the numbers, the stress goes away because now we're focused on things we can control. When we don't have clarity, we're focused on things that we have absolutely no control over, which brings all negative emotion and stress. What keeps us up at night is not focusing on things that we can control. What keeps us up at night is focusing on things we cannot control. And so tracking and measuring gives you the clarity you need to know what to focus on so that you can focus on the things that you can control.
And then just one more thing to tie this back to our weekly one-on-ones. We already talked about the 411, so I don't want to, drive that home again. And yet what I've included here is an off-pace protocol, right? When you know your numbers so much, you're looking at them daily, you have that scoreboard, you've got those dials, the second you are off pace to hit your goal, right? That we used to call this the 15th protocol, right? When you get to the 15th of the month, if you're off base, then here are the activities you can do. In my opinion, that's too late, right? You should have an off pace protocol the second you realize you're not on pace to hit your numbers. And if you're doing those one-on-ones every single week, you can do that at a much faster level and error correct earlier. So you don't find yourself in November trying to find 40 closings to meet your goals for the year. Right? So I threw this in for that one sort of bit. I know we're almost at the end, and like Brenly said, time integrity is really important to us. So I wanted to highlight a couple of upcoming events that we've got going on, as well as how you can register for them. And we'll include these links in the recap as well. But we have 5 tips to master video for social media. That's coming up on the 11th of May. The person teaching that is, her name is Kelly Melody. Her team is out of Florida, and they've built most of their business on using video in social media, and it's really incredible. Operations Manual 101. If you've got an admin or you want to build out your operations manual, that's going to be a great class to attend on the 25th. And then in June, we're launching How to Increase GCI Through Accountability and Agent 411s. We've talked about all of those words today. So if that's something that you need more of in your business, please plan on attending that class as well. And then once again, I am a coach with YRL. I'm also IPEX certified coach and ICF certified coach. So if you are looking for coaching and you want some additional help in your business, scan my little QR code, set up a meeting with me. I will do a free first coaching call with you just to sort of help you out, right? To sort of see where you're at in your business and how we might could partner together on your next phase of growth. And then, of course, we do way more than just coaching here. We do training, we do hiring, we do fractional services. We're doing fractional marketing now. So if you hate social media, but you know you need it for your business, we can help you. If you're looking for a TC, but you're not ready to make a full-time hire, we can help you. Just visit ineedleverage.com, set up a business consultation with us. It's about 15 minutes. We can help you figure out where you most need leverage in your business. And then finally, a couple of people have asked, I want the slides. You can get the slides here. We are going to be sending out a recording as well as some of these additional resources that we mentioned today. So make sure you keep an eye on your email for that. And we love your feedback. So we can't do things differently or better if you don't tell us what we weren't great at. So visit yrleval.com and follow these instructions and let us know how we did. Tell us what you loved too, so we can provide more of that. So your opinion is really important to us.
Guys, don't get overwhelmed by today, right? This was a lot of value, a lot of information in an hour. Go back, review the slides, and pick your top 3 priorities. What are you going to focus on in the month of May? Maybe you're just going to focus on getting back in alignment with the 411. You know, we've been through a whole transition in our company, and we basically have burned it down and rebuilt it in 6 months. And that's a lot on a leader. And so we actually, as an organization, are finalizing our GPSs right now as a new team. And so those are due by Friday. And in May, we're focusing on the 411. We're focusing on getting everyone back engaged in the 411, back engaged in what? Because now all their 30, 60, 90s are done. So now we're moving on to 411s. So, you know, please, please, please don't overwhelm yourselves. Pick one thing and focus on that, just like Jay Papasan tells us, and then focus. And then when you finish that, go to the next. And if you want help, you can go to ineedleverage.com, ineedleverage.com, and we will do a business consultation with you. No obligation to buy anything. You're not going to get sold. Well, maybe a little, but not hard. Right? We're all salespeople here. But we really do want to help agents. That's what we do. We love looking at your businesses and saying, you know, I just talked to an agent here in Palm Harbor today, and I said, let's just sit down and look at, you may be doing some things that if you stop doing them, no one would notice, but it would give you a lot of time back. So let's hop on a call and just walk through that. So please, please use us as a resource. We love pouring into you guys, and we'll see you on future trainings. And thank you, Elena. Great job today filling in for Kayla last minute. Awesome.
Yeah, I feel like I could talk about this all day. We have 2 minutes left. So I'm curious to know, 1 minute, curious to know, is anybody willing to share an aha, a takeaway, a question, anything that they're getting from this class today? I'll stop share so I can actually like see people's faces. Unmute yourself. Tell me something.
Accessible, auditable, actionable.
Love it. Great takeaway.
That's
One
it.
more.
That's it. Anybody else?
Follow one course until success. Jesus,
right.
Mary and Joseph.
It's simple. It's not always easy.
True.
Well, and guys, here's what I always say, and I'm learning in my business. You don't have a listing problem. You don't have a buyer problem. We have a consistency problem. because we hate being bored. And we literally have to do things so consistently to the point of boredom. And then we have to be okay being bored. But a lot of us are entrepreneurs and we create chaos in our business to have something to do, right? And what we need to do is we need to find other places to have our fun and let our businesses be boring. Because then that's when the true beauty starts, because everything happens in consistency. Everything. That's where the magic happens.
Boring business.
My aha is I really need an ops coach. Well, Rolando, call us. We've got you covered. We've got 10
I
on
got
staff.
you. Yes, call me. Call me. I love it.
All right, guys.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so much for
much.
joining us today. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.